G'day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. In this video we're going to take a look at just how good the brand new LR Power of Pride and Hope Super Saiyan God Ssgss Vegeta and Super Saiyan Trunks future unit does in Dbz Dokkan battle, and especially in the Cell Max or Super Cell Max extreme difficulty event. So basically guys, to cut a long story short, as you always know, my disclaimer for the Cell Max event is pretty straightforward. The Cell Max event is an event that is best taken on by units that have either a super high level of damage reduction or they have a super high level of evasion. Now, the bond of, or the power of Pride and Hope LR int Super Saiyan God Ssgss Vegeta and Super Saiyan Trunks do not have high levels of damage reduction. They do have two very nifty factors. One is their ability to stack defense, so they can stack defense at a pretty high clip because of their 18 key and their LR stats, and the fact that they have guard. Now they are int type, which means they wouldn't technically really need the guard mechanic to be able to obviously take on like all the content in the Cell Max event, because obviously, you know, Cell Max, the final phase, is a tech unit. But they will have an advantage in a situation whereby, you know, they are like, you know, where they have to kind of take them on, essentially. So, like the physical phase, the strength phase, it obviously does help there. They're not historically as hard as the tech phase, so that is something to be aware of, but it's not necessarily the biggest issue in the world. I think overall they do a pretty good job as a unit, and I think most players will be pretty happy with, you know, how they look overall. At least to me, I think they do look pretty good. I don't want to like say too much. I think they're considered one of the strongest defensive units in the game. But they can still take a fair amount of damage from Cell Max. You know, like the defense only lasts or helps so much in an event like Cell Max, where, you know, the unit's just hitting so hard. But still, they do a great job. They do tank like relatively well, and for the most part, you shouldn't have that many issues. You know, you shouldn't have like too many major concerns around like their defensive capabilities. Like, yes, obviously, I think, you know, most players want units that can truly tank Cell Max, and I think they are up there. They can definitely tank relatively well against Cell Max. They can do a fairly decent job against them. They do a pretty strong job just overall in general, because of the fact that they have type advantage and because their defense can get relatively high fairly quickly because of that stacking. So that's good. Their leader skill and their team also pretty good to take on the event. Future Saga or Bond of Parent and Child. Bond of Parent and Child is pretty strong. Obviously, a large portion of it is also the movie Heroes team, so that does help. But yeah, generally speaking, it's a pretty strong category that I think a lot of people are able to make really good teams with. So I think in general they are good in a lot of ways. You know, not just them as a unit, but it's also about the teams that you can build with said unit. You know, you look at like Final Form Cooler LR, you look at, you know, Goku Powerful Comebacks like an OK category, whereas Final Form Cooler's team is pretty nutty. Like, it's pretty top tier. So it's those type of things that realistically can tend to affect how a unit is perceived and their long-term value. And I think Bond of Parent and Child is one of those categories that in general is just strong. It's strong, it's reliable, it's got a good amount of versatility. It can do a very good job across all kinds of metrics. So yeah, I just think overall for me, they're a good option. We're using kind of a how can I say, a future Saga team build. I'm not really going the bond the parent and child route for their team, and that was just more to highlight them a little bit more in the video rather than to show off their full category. I think without going into too much detail, them at 55% is probably one of the better units you can have for the Cell Max event, just in general. I think they're great. I think, you know, overall they're incredibly strong, and they can definitely make your time against Cell Max a lot easier. The only real thing they're missing is an ability to heal. Obviously, defense-wise, you know, you can heal pretty well as a unit off of raw defense, but generally speaking, it's still nice when units have some kind of mechanic to heal, especially in the Cell Max event where you really want to try and keep your health up as much as possible, which I think is, you know, super important overall for the vast majority of players. But yeah, for me, I do think, you know, they are just exceptional. And I think most players who are lucky enough to get them will maybe not have a unit that's going to 100% solo the Cell Max event, but they will have a unit that will, you know, do a fantastic job in the Cell Max event in general. I think, which is still very impressive. You know, you still want to have that like unit that can be a front lining tank, and I think they're one of the very few units that truly excels in doing so. So I think that's awesome, and because they're in type, because of the way they build up crit, because of the way that they do additional attacks, because of all these things, they do have a pretty strong offensive capability against him as well. So yeah, across the board, just in general, I think they look really good. I don't want to get in too deep with going through their passive or anything, but here you're going to see them tank. They've stored up a decent amount of defense. A rainbow unit would stack faster, which is kind of the only real big difference here. But at 55%, they do a good enough job of stacking that realistically I wouldn't be overtly concerned around how well they do, at least for me personally. Yeah, at 55%, I think they're still very much a good enough tank to take on the content. You've got their active skill, which is still super highly valuable. One thing you might struggle on a bond of parent and child team is to activate the active skill. It's not something that's easy to activate in the Cell Max event, because in the Cell Max event you need to be below 50% health, and you may not exactly be there by the time you get to this phase. So that is something that I will say. But beyond that, I think overall they do look really good. I think a lot of players will, yeah, have a great time using them. At least from my perspective, I think a lot of players will, yeah, really enjoy using them. And yeah, we'll have finally a unit that they can feel confident in putting in that first slot. You can see obviously they took damage. I don't think anyone's kidding themselves that they won't take damage. But they did a great job tanking, especially at 55%. And they're going to do some really good damage. So yeah, for me, honestly, I'm very happy with how they did. And overall, I would give them a super solid 8-9 out of 10. You know, very few units in Dokkan are going to be able to take this kind of heat all the time, and I just think it's really good how well they did overall. But yeah, that's basically going to be it for me, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, of course, as always, take care, stay safe, and bye.